Winter is quickly coming, and we can't form our front porch until we get our concrete poured. Is that the right color? I literally can't see what I'm doing at all.
Damn it. Help. I need an indent.
Alrighty. Concrete is here. We're all ready. We have a 6x6 number 2 rebar welded grid, so this thing is not going anywhere. And then every spot where we're going to have a post sitting, we have a number 6 rebar tying back in here. We're gonna put a flexible expansion along here. It has a perforation along the top I can peel, and then I can run a caulk joint, so when my trim goes down on my siding, it's gonna be completely watertight and nothing can get underneath the slab. All right, so we wanted to start by coring the block. This makes them a lot stronger and ties them all together. You can see Chelsea pushing down the concrete and kind of fluffing it to make sure it gets down in every opening. Anytime you pour something like this, you need to separate it, otherwise you have a huge thickness difference. So the driver got a little carried away, so we had to shovel it out with a mason's trowel. But we folded that black plastic over top of the concrete that we put in the wall. That way there's not a huge thickness difference because it's basically 4 foot versus 4 inches. You can see me making a few piles here and picking up the wire. This stuff was way heavier than what typical wire is, so you can't really lift it after the fact. We dumped it out because it's a pretty small pour for us. It's enjoyable just doing work with your wife like this. We start by hitting the edges. We take a mason's trowel and slide it along the edge. That way it works any stones that are close to the form away, so we have a smooth face when we trowel it. You can see me bent over. That's called a screed. Basically making it flat. It's a super important part of concrete. My dad swung by just to see what we were up to. Thankfully he came at perfect time. He shoveled out about a yard extra of concrete the driver put in there. Next we bull float. That's the thing on the pole that works up cream and pushes the stones down into the concrete as well as levels it off. And you want to do it in both directions. Chelsea loves edging, so I always let her do it when we're working together. And you can see me here Fresnoing. This is like the bull float, it's just lighter and made out of steel instead of that plastic. And this gives it a very smooth finish. That way when you stamp, you don't have any texture other than the stamp itself. Again, crossing it up both directions because although this porch will have a roof, when the water gets on top of it, we want it to shed and we don't want any bad puddles. You can see us snapping on a string line here. I wanted a straight line to get the first row perfect. It was pretty challenging. Typically you use a tamper, but it was so cold it wasn't setting and we were losing daylight, so I just had to start walking on them. These first few rows were very deep, but we finally got the hang of it, and kind of by the time we were halfway done, it was starting to set up and I was able to actually stomp. This was our first time using the wood plank stamps. I've done a lot of other patterns, but this was my buddy's, and oh, yep, you always gotta watch when you're stamping.
Help. I need an indent.
This method of stamping is pretty forgiving. The spray that Chelsea's spraying on is a liquid release that allows the form to be placed on the concrete without bonding at all, so it just comes right off. And if you make a little mistake, you can fix it and then respray it. The other method of stamping, you pitch a colored powder and actually stamp the colored powder in. And when you make that mistake, there's no fixing it. It's just an indent forever. Way to break out the phone light to finish. Honestly, it was kind of by feel at this point. We really couldn't see very well. And even with lights, even if we got more of them, you can't really tell unless you're in daylight. Alright, so this is the next day. We took a antiquing agent. You can see it up there on the window. That is basically a colored powder you mix with water and you just broom it on and then let it dry, and that colored powder settles in all the low spots, and that gives you the contrast between the high and the low areas. So the sealer that we're putting on, you can really see it bring out the contrast. and that's where that darker brown is in all those low areas, giving it the look of wood. We couldn't be happier with how it turned out. The color actually ended up being exactly what we were looking for. We didn't want too red-ish to clash with the cedar, and we got it done in time. There was about 3 days of warm weather for it to cure and harden up. That way we can anchor into it, building the front porch, and we had time for the sealer to cure. We were able to tear out the perforation along the house and caulk the joint. That way no water this winter can migrate under there and cause any heaving. Again, we want this porch to pretty much last forever, and with all the details that we did, it really should. Thank you guys so much for your support. We really appreciate it. And also let us know, do you like the wood plank? Is it too much? Is it too decorative? Or is it just a nice touch? Either way, we appreciate it, and we'll see you guys in the next video.